Welcome back to the SRM workshop. My name is Tim. So I've moved the frame for the Marlin Special up over to my work table here. So today what we're going to do, we're going to get the guide rods in for the Z-axis. I got to trim those to length and do a little bit of fitment work. And then I also have, I'm going to put the guide rails in. And I might just finish doing all the different mounts onto this in this video, because then after that it's tearing it all back apart and doing the final sanding and staining and varnishing. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to do today. Let's just get rolling.
These guide rods are too long for this application, so I'm actually just going to verify that they're parallel and then cut them off to length. I'll do that off camera. And now I 3D printed some templates so that way I can align the bed rails to match what's in the CAD design. And now I'm just going to get the first bed rail down before I'll use the fixture that I made to align the second rail. I did mark where the second bed rail is supposed to go, so I knew roughly what position it was going to be in, but I wanted to use the fixture to ensure that everything is nice and parallel and will travel without any binding once this frame is assembled fully. Now I'm going through and drilling all the remaining holes, well, every other hole. I didn't feel it was necessary to do every single hole in this particular design. It's, again, way overkill. If this is a piece of CNC equipment, like a router or something, it might make more sense to do so. But yeah, just running a 1032 tap through everything, make sure everything lines up really beautifully, and then we'll go through and lock everything down. Alright, now I'm moving on to the gantry, and unfortunately I forgot that I made a design change in the file that was not quite correct, so I'm going to have to actually go and change that back. The bearing block for for the servo side is a little loose on the bearing itself. Another thing I'm going to work on is actually the fitment of these guide rods where they go in. I think it's just a little bit too tight on the rod itself, so I'm going to work on fine-tuning that in the model so that way I can print it and have it easier to assemble and also disassemble, because this is a lot more hammering than I really care for. But overall it travels really nice, and now I've switched over to putting the standoffs and combiner brackets on the power supplies. Again, these need a little bit of fine-tuning before I go into production, but overall they're not too hard to install. I may redesign the centerpiece of this bracket so that way it just has a couple alignment pins, and that way then the power supplies will actually just bolt down on the outer edge, which would make it a lot easier to change out power supplies in the future, because it really is a bugger to get a wrench in there. And now I'm doing the mount for the MOSFETs. Figured I'd do that ahead of time while it was easy to get the drill in there. And now I'm going through and mounting center out and working around. Everything should lock down just fine. Yeah, this box is also on the list of things to get redesigned. I think I'm going to shift it a little bit lower, provide a little bit different airflow characteristics to the back side of the box. But overall, it fits the bill for now.
Well, I think that's going to about wrap it up for this installment. We got all the major mechanical systems mounted. I haven't mounted this piece down for the Y-axis. but that's a fairly easy thing to get dialed in. I'm missing the other piece that sits over here for the servo mount, so I'll have to find out. Oh, found it. Just now found it while we're talking. So anyway, so the servo mount sits like this. I got to verify this shaft alignment and whatnot. But yeah, basically this sits here like this. It'll have a cross shaft that the belt drives will attach to, and then there's a tensioner in the back end there for the rest of it. But we got really good vertical travel on this. I got one of these is not very good, so we're going to swap out this one right here, because this side moves really freely, this side's pretty bound. It might just need to be lubricated. I got the control box installed, so you'll just have to reach over like this to fine-tune the access everything. You also have your SD card is going to be relocated to right here. It just has a little receiver that sits in that spot, so that way you don't have to open it up and reach inside to plug into the board. I've never been a fan of that system, so we're not going to do it. A couple things left to design still. I need to make up a template for the extruder to sit on. I also need to make a stop for the Z-axis, because this is the fine adjustment wheel, so I'll have to make a little standoff that hits this. But I really need to get it all the way assembled first, so I know how much it's going to change. I need to make the base for the bed, so this can actually be locked down. We also have to have a Y-axis end stop. This one's already figured out, so this is the X-axis. We'll actually have the switch screw on right there. In the back here we got our power supplies, so there'll probably be an on-off switch in the back here somewhere. Not entirely sure where, but just out of the way, so you have a fused on-off switch. It'll run up to the power supplies. Some of the power will go forward to the control unit, and the rest of the power will go to a series of MOSFETs to run the heated beds and run the extruder. So that way then we're not putting all that current through that control unit, which should help quite a bit with the longevity of the unit. Anyway, it's hot out here again. I'm gonna call it a day. So I hope you enjoyed getting it this far. Next time we'll finish mounting the last couple things and then tear it all apart and do the final sanding and staining and varnishing. And then it's assembly time after that.